Jessica Freedman is a professional birth doula, spinning babies certified parent educator, prenatal yoga educator, and student of traditional Chinese medicine who brings a holistic, culturally informed lens to perinatal care. Her work integrates movement, breath, and ancestral wisdom to help birthing people feel grounded and empowered throughout pregnancy and labor. Jess has studied birth culture across Asia and is deeply committed to honoring bodily autonomy, informed consent, and the right to birth with dignity. Through teaching, advocacy, and hands on support, she guides clients in reclaiming their voice and their power in birth.
You're listening to the Birth Advocacy Podcast. I'm Kira Walsh, and let's be honest, you're not here for the watered-down birth education you'd get from a hospital class. On this podcast, we're talking about the stuff your provider probably won't tell you, the questions you didn't know you could ask, and how to advocate for yourself in a system that wasn't designed with you in mind. Listen, I know you've got advice flying at you from your provider, your best friend, your Facebook group, and your mother-in-law, and none of it feels clear or helpful. If you're craving unfiltered birth education that actually prioritizes you, you're in the right place. Let's jump in. First of all, I just want to welcome you to the Birth Advocacy Podcast. Do you want to start by just telling my listeners a little bit about you, who you are?
Sure, I'd love to. So my name is Jessica. I am a Tampa native and a mom of two, and I've kind of always been in the medical field as a profession, but I took a very different turn. So when I graduated college, I was pre-med. I was like thinking of going into medical school, but I did not love how Western medicine, and I graduated college over 20 years ago. This was like, a long time ago, but I didn't love the way traditional Western medicine was headed into just writing prescriptions and treating the symptoms and not getting to the root cause. So I had to take a pause about what I wanted to do professionally and career-wise. And I actually got a job working at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay as a zoo educator. And I was conservation was my jam, but I got to work with all the animals too. So I learned how to get up in front of crowds of thousands of people and publicly speak. So that's where I got like my speaking, I guess, cred. So it was fun. But, I did that for a few years, but I realized very quickly, because it's such a competitive field, that I probably we all had second and third jobs, right? So I started teaching yoga. And this was 2005, like no yoga studios existed yet. They were very far and few between. And I had a yoga studio say, "Do you feel comfortable teaching pregnant women?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah. Were you a mom at that point?
No, I was in my early, not even close, but I was willing to try anything. And
I love it.
I like to research a lot before I just dive in blindly. So I was talking to my friends' parents who were OBs. I was talking to PTs. I was like, give me the knowledge about how to work with pregnant women, in a safe way. They would give me some tips. And so I started teaching prenatal yoga, and it just kind of evolved from there. I became a mom. And while I became a mom, I was in grad school for traditional Chinese medicine, and I really loved focusing on women's health and fertility. So it became I understood very quickly that I wasn't going to be able to continue my grad school journey because I had an infant, and then we got pregnant right away with my daughter. And I went through grad school through my whole pregnancy and 6 months into my breastfeeding journey. And I was like, I can't continue this and be a mom of two kids under 17 months. I can't do them both. So I had to step away from grad school, but it's okay because it laid a foundation, a very holistic foundation for how I approach caring for my pregnant clients.
Totally. So you were in grad school you said traditional Chinese medicine was what you were focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of started that, right? Like you had gone from pre-med to traditional Chinese medicine. Was it just seeing how the medical field was? Was it working alongside those professionals? What kind of made that switch for you?
Yeah, great question. I started getting acupuncture and herbal. I started seeing an acupuncture physician because as I transitioned off birth control to being all natural, I guess, if you want to say that, I started having horrible symptoms. I was put on birth control at age 15 for my PCOS.
Okay, yeah.
It dampened the symptoms, but then when I went off birth control, they came raging back with a vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is a problem for a lot of women my age and younger who are just automatically put on birth control because of heavy periods and, painful periods and all of the things. And I was like, this is not right. And my OBGYN was like, I have no answers for you. You need to go back on hormonal birth control. And I said, I'm not willing to do that. I want a family one day. And I'm afraid that this could dampen my chances of conceiving naturally. So I started seeing an acupuncture physician, and my whole health paradigm changed. My whole body changed. She started treating root instead of just, treating symptoms.
Yeah, not just
And
putting a band-aid on it.
correct. And I fell in love with the medicine. And so she was like, you should go to acupuncture school. And I was like, okay.
I love acupuncture. I got it during my pregnancy, and then I'm in the process of becoming a surrogate now, and I'm planning on doing it again. Yeah, I'm sure there's so much more I could learn about it, but that's so cool. It's just so interesting. I also went to school for pre-med. Like, I started college as a pre-med major, and it's so funny how many of us are like, actually gonna do a complete 180 here and just flip it around. So
Yeah.
acupuncture was like your gateway drug. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. So then walk me down kind of what happened from there. So you were in school, you stopped going for the traditional medicine, kind of pick up where you left off. Like, what kind of led you down to this path now?
Yeah, so I kind of dove into being a full-time mom. My husband was in medical school at the time to be a naturopathic medical doctor. So I was kind of like supporting my husband through medical school, full-time mom of two little ones. We did not live near any family, so I really had to focus on my family. But when we moved back to Tampa, because we were going to grad medical school in Arizona, when we moved back to Tampa and we were around family again, I started working again, and I dove back into prenatal yoga and wellness, and I did a course with Dr. Sarah Duvall, a pregnancy and postpartum corrective exercise course, so I could start training my pregnant clients too, because they wanted to strength train and they wanted to make sure they had strong yet flexible pelvic floors in preparation for birth and,
Yes,
all
so
of the
important.
things. This was 2020, so I was like diving really like head first into like all
Yeah.
of the online trainings. So, I mean, as rough as a time as it was, I really utilized that time to study and improve how I served my clients. And then it just kind of kept snowballing into I had my clients be like, you should be a doula. I would hire you in a heartbeat. And I was like, well, I don't know. It was never accessible to me before because I had young children, but now my children were getting older and it was easier to be away from them for longer periods of time. So I was
Hmm.
like, well, why not? So I went
Let's just
through,
add another thing. It's so
yeah,
funny. I'm the same
yeah,
exact way. I'm like, what
yeah,
else can I do? It's fine.
yeah.
I love it.
It was these kinds of things that helped me kind of just continue down the career path with how I could serve my pregnant and postpartum clients and their families. And yeah, and then I became a spinning babies instructor and,
I'm
you know,
obsessed. I'm obsessed with spinning babies. I've done multiple spinning babies trainings. I'm like, I just need to get my certification to just teach
yeah.
those classes. Spinning babies is so incredible. So, what kind of led you there? Just like naturally, just kind of finding the path and like seeing all the things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd been following Gail Tully and some of the folks that she worked with for quite a while, and I became a doula and a spinning babies educator at the same time. And I was at a birth at one of my like practice observational births, and I was talking to this nurse who had done some spinning babies trainings, and I was so fascinated by the levels of the pelvis and how you
Hmm.
can just do these simple anatomical manipulations with peanut balls to open the certain levels. And I was like, wow, this is like truly fascinating. So she was like, yeah, this is spinning baby stuff. And I was like, sold.
Sign me up. Where do
Yeah.
I get this? Now, when you had your kids, did your births unfold how you see birth now, or was it different than kind of how you practice and what you see?
Really different with the first
Okay.
one.
Okay.
I had my first baby in a birthing center. And at that time, people were like, oh my God, you're having a baby
Yes.
outside of the hospital. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, I actually started in traditional OBGYN care and I did not love how I
Hmm.
was being treated as a patient and a woman and rushed through the appointments. And at my 24-week appointment, they were like, well, let's start thinking about your induction date. And I was a 29-year-old healthy female with zero pregnancy complications, didn't have GD, didn't have any issues whatsoever. And they were wanting to talk about scheduling an induction. And
Wow.
I was like, and this was even before the Arrive trial. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I don't understand why you're wanting to do this. Would belittle the questions that I would ask and put me down. And I was just like, you know what? That's enough. I've got to do something different. So we found the only freestanding birth center in our area that was run by midwives. And at that time, there were no home birth midwives, at least none that we could find. So to tell you how much Tampa's grown, now there's like,
Oh, and this was in Tampa, not in Arizona, right?
this was in Tampa, yeah. And there's
Okay.
like
Okay.
75 home birth midwives in Tampa now.
That's amazing.
I started going to midwives at a freestanding birth center for my care, and I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I envisioned for pregnancy and birth, prenatal care and birth support. And my first birth was rough because my baby was posterior and he was coming down asynclitically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not everybody has an excruciating back labor story, but mine was.
Also share an asynclitic back labor story with you.
You do?
I
For
do.
your
My daughter
for
was
your
asynclitic with a nuchal hand, so yeah,
Oh, yes. Yes.
it was quite a
Yes.
journey.
Yes. And so it was a really rough birth, and it was super painful, and like just at the end I remember thinking it should not, I don't think it has to be this way. And that's kind of also what, as I went along, I started looking at positioning of baby and what can I do and all of these things because, I just thought birth doesn't have to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there are some instances where birth is very challenging. Yes, I know it is because I had one of those very, very challenging births, but I wanted to see what could be done to positively influence birth second time around. So when I found out I was pregnant the second time, I started doing all those things. And those things included seeing a Webster chiropractor and making
Yes.
sure that I was getting regular acupuncture treatments and um, like positioning, making sure I wasn't sitting with a tucked posterior tuck, and just a lot of things that I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to try everything to positively influence birth the second time around.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, and had a much smoother experience. I think, though, what helped the most was I had a doula the second time.
Okay. Interesting.
I did not have a doula the first time. And what I love midwives, but midwives are not doulas.
100%.
They're your care provider. They're there to make sure that you're healthy, baby's healthy, and I'm sure there are some midwives who act as doulas too, but that wasn't my experience with either one of my births. My midwives weren't present the whole time. One was sleeping for
Mm-hmm.
99% of my birth in the corner, and I was like, so um she was I went on later, real quick side story. I went on later to see her at a pediatrician's office 4 years later. And I was like, oh, she was working at a pediatrician's office. I was like, you're not doing births anymore? And she was like, oh, no, I hated birth. And I was like,
Right. Explains a
I,
lot.
yeah, explains a lot.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, having a doula the second time was very helpful because she was
Mm-hmm.
just able to come in when I was in the tub and just lay a hand on my back and be like, relax your shoulders,
Yes.
soften your body, breathe into here. And like she did it so skillfully and artfully that it was like hands off birth
Mm-hmm.
support, but you felt like you were being hugged.
Yes, my doula was the same exact way. We joke, like, even to this day, she's like, I feel like you were, obviously we say this to all of our clients, like, you were the rock star, like, I didn't do anything. And it's like, no, like, you did so much just by being there. Like, just the presence of a hand on my back was like all I needed. So it's so important what doulas can provide to births.
Yes. Yes.
So fast forward now, like, what does your practice look like? Kind of what do you do day to day? Like, what is your role with birth now?
Yeah, so I'm still seeing I still have clients. I have births scheduled all the way through the end of 2025 and starting to very mindfully take births in 2026. As I mentioned earlier, we're starting a homesteading journey.
I love
So
it.
we're a little removed from Tampa. So I will still be taking clients, birth clients, but I am going to maybe not take as many. The last year I've had several birth clients, and it's been a rewarding and beautiful journey, but it's also, as birth workers, you have to be very thoughtful with your energy expenditure. So when you're giving and giving and giving all the time, it starts to kind of take a toll. While it was a really rewarding journey, I give a lot of myself. There's a lot of energy
Yes.
expenditure in the doula field. And so, like, I'm going to take 2026 a little slower so I can, fill myself back up, because we have to fill ourselves up in order to be able to give of ourselves. So I am still seeing clients, but I'm seeing a lot of like virtual childbirth education clients,
Mm-hmm.
virtual doula clients. Still doing I do a lot of spinning babies, private in-home instruction for parents in the Bay
Oh, I
Area.
love that.
People will call me at 34 weeks and they're like, my doctor wants to schedule an ECV. I don't want an ECV. I want to try and help this baby turn naturally. So I'll go to their home and we schedule something within the next day or two. I go to their
Yep.
home, we do the
You're
things.
like, let's do all those inversions, get all the things
Mm-hmm.
going.
Yep.
Shockers. Babies usually. So, what is the percentage of like, do you know like how often that happens and how often you can like naturally flip baby?
So for me, with all the people I've worked with, I've about 80% of the people that I've worked with, we've
That's
been able to
amazing.
turn their babies.
That's
Now,
amazing.
what's really cool is those babies that did not turn. I was lucky enough to be a part of their birth, so I got to go back into the OR with the
Mm-hmm.
mom, or at least with a couple of them. And for example, one baby that just would not turn head down, he had a triple nuchal cord and his placenta was at the fundus, so at the very top of the uterus. And because of the way the cord was wrapped, it was a very short
Very
cord.
short
So
cord. Yeah.
every time he tried to turn, it would just tighten up on him. So,
Mm-hmm.
but we would see him trying to turn because his head would go across the front of her belly
Oh,
down
that's
toward her
so cool.
pubis.
I love
And
that so much.
he would try, but then he'd stop and he'd be like, and I would tell her, he is wise. There is a reason he's not turning.
Mm-hmm.
She still wanted to try for a vaginal birth, so she had an ECV. Now in Tampa, we do ECVs in the OR because if there's a
Yeah.
problem, then they convert to a section very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they tried the ECV manually. There was a problem. His heart rate tanked and it was in the 30s. So they
Wow.
transitioned. I know. It was a scary moment for me too. And for dad, and I'm trying to hold dad, space for dad, space for mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm positioned where I can kind of see over the drape, and I hear the surgeon say, oh, it's a triple nuchal with a short cord. And
Mm-hmm.
so they brought baby out, and he was fine. Mom and dad, everybody was healthy, which
Yeah.
is wonderful. But that's just an example of one of the anatomical reasons sometimes babies just won't turn.
Yeah, it's so awesome that you brought that up because I think like for doulas especially, like we are so, and I'm going to speak very broadly here as far as a stereotype, right? Like we say, vaginal birth, like birth on your own terms, but there is a time and a place for Western medicine, and that is a perfect example. Like you said, baby is wise, baby's trying to do things, but baby knows like, hey, it's probably best that I don't turn or I can't turn. So how often do you see that where moms feel this guilt where it's like they want to birth vaginally, they want to do all the things quote unquote naturally, but then you see those anatomical reasons. Do you see any guilt, I guess, with that? Like with the moms feeling like they failed or weren't able to do the quote unquote natural way?
Every single time. Every time. And even if we've done all the work prior to talking about how it's not their fault and how I don't want them to feel that guilt, when I go to the postpartum visits, the majority of the conversation centers around how guilty they feel. And it breaks my heart. I completely understand, and their feelings are very valid, but it breaks my heart because they did literally everything they could. And there was just no way, And so we talk about that. And a lot of people will kind of counter with, well, why couldn't they have vaginally birthed their breech baby? And some Some places, we do have one obstetrician in the Tampa Bay area, one.
I was going to ask that if you have any breech trained. Yeah.
Yeah, who will, but he, as you can imagine, he's in high demand. So, of course, I understand that breech is a variation of normal, and I support moms looking for providers who will help them vaginally deliver their breech baby, but we just don't have that many providers in the area.
Yeah.
So
And it
we
is
talk.
very important, as you know, like it's very important to have a breech trained provider. If you are going to attempt a breech birth, like it is not just vaginal birth, like in reverse. It's very different, as I'm sure you know.
Yes,
So
yes.
very important to have that trained provider.
It is, and I don't understand why more aren't, especially in this day and age.
Mm. You would wish.
Yeah,
maybe one day.
yeah, yeah.
I love it. So 80% that you're able to get the babies to term, that is awesome. I think I just wish more women knew about spinning babies, even just like the daily exercises. Like you don't need to have a breech baby to look into spinning babies. Like start doing that right away. And I mean, I again wish that I knew about spinning babies. I wish I knew half of what I know now back when I was pregnant, because a 9 pound, 2 ounce baby that was asynclitic with a nuchal hand was not fun. I had my daughter at home, so I obviously was given the time and the space to work through that. But I wish I knew what I know now. Like there were so many
Yeah,
things that I'm like, could have done that, could have done an inversion here, could have done this, could have done that. And it's just, I mean, hindsight's 2020, so
right,
it
right,
is what it
same.
is.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how long did you push with her? May I
So
ask?
I was in labor for start and stop for 72 hours. And then I pushed for about 3 hours with her.
Yeah, yep.
So no
Those
tears,
asynclitic.
didn't tear. So that was a big win. But yeah, the labor was rough. And now looking back, I mentioned I'm going to be a surrogate. Like everyone's like, you want to do that again? I'm like, but it's not going to be like that again. It's going to be so different this time. So, I mean, obviously you can't predict, but like you said, like, so many more things now. So it just, yeah. But yeah, pushed for 3 hours. My pelvic floor was wrecked. So that was fun.
Yeah,
But obviously went to pelvic floor PT, which every mom should do. Um, yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't say enough. I have friends that are like, yeah, I pee when I'm jumping. I'm like, girl, that's not normal. You shouldn't leak when you
mm,
jump. Please
I
go to
know.
PT. Yeah,
Yes.
it's there's so many things that I'm like, I'm the weird one that's like, everyone, Kira, stop talking about birth. Stop talking about pelvic floors. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna stop talking about it.
Never,
No,
never.
so many women like just don't know the resources that are available or like what they should. Our society is just so tainted with like, oh, just bounce back, like you're normal. I'm like, you literally just birthed a human. Like you're
Yeah,
not just gonna bounce back. That's not how
no.
it works. It's not how it works. So I would love to dive into kind of what you see in Tampa. So obviously I'm in Charleston. So I'm sure we see a lot of the same things. I'm sure there's different things. So are you attending births in hospitals, at home, and birth centers? Like where do you mostly attend births?
Yeah, great question. I kind of started out thinking I was going to be mostly a home birth and birth center
Yeah.
doula, but God or the universe, whatever, had different plans for me and said, nope, you're going to be a high risk, like hospital doula who sees all of the. So I do a lot of high risk hospital birth support.
Okay.
And when I get to do, like, I have a mom who was due last Wednesday, so she is a birth center birth. And whenever I get to do one of those, I'm like, yay! It's such a, such a treat for me. I mean, all births are a treat for me, very much. But it's just a break.
There's something about a birth center or a home birth that's just it just hits differently.
It does hit different. So it does. It really does. So not that you can't have a beautiful hospital birth, because I've attended many beautiful hospital births, but it's just those high risk labors. They're challenging. And it takes a lot of emotional holding space for mom and dad, or, mom's mom, or whatever family is there to navigate that, which I'm always happy to do, but it's a lot of emotion. So I do a lot of hospitals, and I serve probably about 7 of the Bay Area hospitals.
So as far as high risk, when you say high risk, like what typically are you seeing in those pregnancies that are causing them to be high risk?
Moms with preeclampsia, moms with gestational diabetes. I have a client who had fibroids. So from a very early on time, there was talk about, is this going to be able to be a vaginal birth or is it going to need to be a cesarean? Moms who've had endometriosis, the whole gamut of moms who have chronic health issues, and then now they're navigating pregnancy with chronic health issues. So yeah, it's a myriad of things.
Yeah. So these high risk moms just somehow seem to make it to your way and they're just like, "Hi, here I am."
Yeah, yeah. But a lot of VBAC moms.
Yes.
So, my very
I had
first
quite a
V,
few VBACs this year. I feel like
did
moms are
you?
finally like, I can do this. And I don't know what it was. I feel so when I started doula work back in 2021, at least like the clients that was seeing, it was just like, oh, I had a cesarean, I have to have another cesarean. But I feel
Yeah.
like in the past couple years, it has been VBAC after VBAC, and I'm like, yes, I love it so much. So there's definitely been a switch there with like education or something, which has been awesome. Are you seeing more VBACs than you when you first started your practice?
Actually, I started my very first birth ever was a VBAC.
Stop. What a way to get into birth work.
And she was, I told her, I was like, you would literally be my first ever. I have no experience. I have a little bit of training and understanding, but I have no personal lived experience with supporting a VBAC. She was like, I don't care. I want you. So
Mhm.
again, dove into studying and talking to and figuring out like the best ways to support a VBAC client. And yeah, so she knew,
I love
she
it.
knew.
I love
And
it. That's how I was with my first feedback too. I was like, I've never done this before. But isn't it
mm,
interesting though? You said the same thing that I kind of felt too. It's like when I took that mom as a client, I was like, I know nothing about VBACs. Let me go and research. Let me go and
yeah,
educate myself. And I feel like it's doulas that typically are the other providers that do that, right? Like you don't see OBs like, oh, let me go research and learn about breech. Like
yeah.
it's so interesting that we take that upon ourselves. Doulas are special kind of people. Like there's no one like doulas. Again, I'm a
Yeah.
little bit biased, but it's just so interesting that we both did that with our first feedbacks.
Yeah.
So you said you typically work with a lot of high risk moms. Obviously, my hill that I'm always going to die on is birth advocacy and birth rights.
Yes.
So, what does that look like in the hospital with a high risk mom, right? Like, there needs to be, well, potentially needs to be a little bit more intervention, right? Or monitoring of those high risk symptoms. So, what does that look like for you? And what is it like to navigate those high risk labors while also keeping birth advocacy and birth rights in mind?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. As a doula, I like to spend a lot of time with my clients during their pregnancy. So we do a couple of prenatal sessions in their home, and then we also, talk a lot on the phone. We'll talk after their doctor appointments, and talk about those interventions that their doctors are sharing with them. A lot of these high risk moms are do have induction dates.
Okay.
We know ahead of time what that induction date looks like. We go over a list of questions for their provider. What are the methods that you're going to use to begin my induction? Can we start with the least invasive method, like a membrane sweep, just to see if that kind of gets things going before we start with cervical dilation medications. So we have very in-depth talks prior to labor beginning. And so before their labor even starts, they know every single intervention, the alternative, when to ask, could we try this before we try that? I go over everything from A to Z with them. So they know what questions to ask during those appointments. And then when their induction starts, I'll sometimes get there right at the beginning of the induction and we'll kind of go over everything again. And I also love to keep a very professional and good working relationship with their providers. I feel very fortunate that in my birth support over the last few years, I have worked with very few healthcare providers that are pains. I don't mean
That's
to say that.
amazing.
Yeah,
That's
most.
great because there is a hospital here in Charleston that I refuse to serve anymore. It is just there's something about a culture. It spreads in hospitals. So you're very lucky.
I say that over and over again because the majority of the OBs and the midwives who work in hospital and the L&D nurses are amazing. We vibe. It is a
Yes.
thing. We're a birth team that is all here and supporting the family. every once in a while, there is an old school doc that might come in, or an old school nurse that might come in and give a little pushback or, flack. So we have the talks. I had those talks with the parents about how to handle situations like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be, hey, you know what? I just want a new nurse because this one is not treating me with respect.
So many parents don't realize that they can do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you
Yeah.
can ask for a different provider, you can ask for a different nurse. I love that you teach that.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have had to do that one time. Only one time. And
Yeah.
again, I feel really happy about this because a dad was like, after this nurse came in and checked the mom's vitals, she was extremely rude to me, rude to dad, rude to mom. And we were just all in such shock by the way she spoke to us that I looked at dad and he's like, "It's time to ask for a new provider." I just had to give him a
Yes.
look. So
I love it. Oh, that's
so
so unfortunate.
he went to the charge nurse and he said, "Listen, this nurse is being rude to my wife, myself, and our support person. Can
Mm-hmm.
you please replace her?" And the one that came in was a gem. Like she was,
I love it.
just a gem of a human being.
I love that. So, with most of your clients being inductions, what percentage, I guess, again, you might not know this stat off the top of your head, how often are moms getting epidurals and you're seeing that impact their labor?
Yeah, that quite a few of the people that I serve get epidurals in hospital. How does it impact their labor? One of the things that we really talk about is like that kind of ideal, like special, magical time to get the epidural,
Mm-hmm.
not just walking into the hospital and being like, epidural.
Yes. Yes.
So,
You're like 3 centimeters, like, I'll take that epidural now. I'm like, no, wait, just wait.
yeah. Yeah. And so, I had a mom who recently she would oh man, she managed her contractions beautifully through active labor. But right before transition, she looked at me and she was like, "I think I really need to get that epidural." She got the epidural while she was in transition.
Oh, God.
It was, but she was able to, I don't know how she did it, but
She holds still.
her husband had one side and I had the other, and we were like hugging her. And, the
Girl.
anesthesiologist was like, "Okay, tell me as soon as it stops, you know,
In they
just,
go. Oh, man, that's rough.
but, my clients are really great about like just waiting until that time so they can be upright and moving and going to
Yes.
the bathroom and drinking and snacking and doing all of the things that are helping baby kind of navigate those pelvic levels with more ease. So I have very few clients who are like, "I want that epidural right now."
Yeah.
Now, if they do want that epidural right now, okay. But then we're doing all the peanut ball things and we're
Yeah.
moving every 20 to 30 minutes and we're still doing jiggling and sideline releases and, but I do see, I don't know if it's the epidural that really like impacts labor. Sometimes epidurals have a really positive impact on
Yes, they
labor.
do. And that is another thing, again, like a stereotype with doulas is that like we are so opposed to epidurals. And it's like sometimes moms just need to rest or moms
Yes.
just need to release the tension. And the
Yeah.
epidural is exactly what she needs. So
Yes.
it is not like epidural or bust. Like there it is a again, sometimes there's a time and a place for Western medicine, and that can be super beneficial.
So helpful sometimes. Just the look of relief on her eyes, the
Yes.
ability to breathe more deeply, connect with her baby, connect with her body. It brings so much comfort and ease to the whole birthing situation and experience. So, there can be benefits to interventions when used
Yes.
well.
Yeah, and exactly. Like you are such a good example of that, right? Like your background is in traditional Chinese medicine and, natural physiological birth. And yet here you are working with these high risk moms getting induced. Like there can be a balance and there should be a balance. I feel like swaying one way or the other can be so detrimental to birth and so detrimental to parents.
Yeah.
So specifically with the inductions, right? Like that kind of takes away a choice, right, for mom to just go into labor naturally. So how do you help clients? And you mentioned a lot of education prior, but how do you help clients really like maintain their autonomy in birth and working through, yes, you have to be induced, like yes, there is that aspect, but how do you help them kind of navigate their autonomy throughout their labor?
Yeah. It's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking. If And when I have clients who feel like they don't have a voice, we talk about why they feel like they don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there is a real important mental health and nervous system component in pregnancy and birth. And so I'm also I will die on this hill that we all need mental health support, right? Like
100%.
all of us. But especially during pregnancy and birth, it brings up sometimes past emotions and whatever that get kind of trapped in the body. They bring up a lot of things. So
Mm-hmm.
being able to talk to a trusted therapist, a trusted professional during pregnancy prior to birth can help find your voice, can help you voice your needs, your wants, your desires, can help your partner get clear on what you need, because your partner is going to be your advocate so many times, right? And I think that that's really important. One of the most important things, in my personal opinion, is teaching your clients how to be their own advocates, because
Mm-hmm.
who's going to listen to them? If it comes down to it, is a doctor going to listen more to them or to you? Probably more to them, right? It's them saying, no, this is what I want.
Yep.
If it's a doula saying, no, this is what she wants, they're either going to be like, or you know what I mean? Like we
Yep.
have to instill that autonomy in them so they feel confident and prepared to voice their opinions. Now, if they don't, if they get trapped in a moment where they're like, I don't know what to do, we also say, can we have 5 minutes to talk
Yep.
about it
Ask for
privately?
time. Exactly.
So, and then when with the provider out of the room, sometimes they'll say, well, what do you think? And I'm like, well, what I think doesn't matter, but I want to know how you feel about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk through A, B, and C here. And I never push opinion, but I do open doors to help them come to their own decisions.
Yes. I mean, I say all the time, like a doula is never going to save you. Do I think every parent during every birth should have a doula? Yes. Is a doula there to save you? No. And
Mm-mm.
really educating the partner, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, but people are like, well, my husband's going to be there. I don't need a doula. Awesome. If your husband is going to educate himself about all of the birth interventions and all of the birth education and then be a doula also, awesome. But he also shouldn't have to take on that role. Like, a partner is also so emotionally invested in that labor and in that birth. They shouldn't have to take on that additional
Right.
role as a doula. But as you mentioned, educating partners is so, so important to also be an advocate. So you mentioned going into homes and doing like spinning babies and all of the prenatal education. What aspects of that is with the partners, right? Like, are you meeting with like both mom and dad during their appointments? Like, what does that look like as far as your prenatal education?
Yes, we make sure to schedule appointments when the either dad, partner, or whoever is going to be your secondary or primary, really. I'm secondary, but your primary support person, like that's a non-negotiable for me. And it's funny because the birth that I did earlier in the spring, the dad was at the appointments. You could see he was kind of like there, but not. He was kind of
Yeah.
like nodding along.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the birth, he was sometimes on his phone watching golf and, or whatever sport he was
Stop.
watching. but
During
but
the
only
birth?
but only when she was sleeping, like
Okay, fair.
kudos to him.
Okay,
He was a
fair.
he was a fantastic partner. But, he would just kind of be a little checked out at times.
Yeah.
But then when it came time for like when things really started unfolding and we got a little closer, transition was happening, all these things. At the end, after everything calmed down, and all the other people had left and it was just the three of us and the baby, he looked at me and he said, I did not understand why you were important until just now.
Yep. It's
And he
such a
was like,
rewarding thing to hear too, because you're like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then he went home, and at our postpartum visit, he said, I have told like all of my friends who have wives that they have to have a doula when they have a
Yep.
baby, because you saved our like experience. He was like, it would
Mm-hmm.
not have been the same if you hadn't been there.
Yep. I hear that all the time. And it's just like, I love that. I love that for these specifically men who are typically like, again, like birth is birth, right? Like they're just assuming that it's going to be one, like A to B, right? Like just one way. And then they're just like, wow, like their eyes just open and see how birth is not a roadmap. It's going here and then all over the place. And they're just like, okay, like I get it now.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
But what a long time, like for so many years, right? Men were not allowed in the birthing spaces.
Yes.
So it's a lot of unlearning, I think, for men,
Yeah.
even for young men who are have in their 20s and having babies now. Even for them, it's a long unlearning process. We have to unwind a lot of what was
Mm-hmm.
instilled in us for a very long time.
Yeah. And I don't think the medical system makes it easy for partners and dads to be a part of it. I mean, specifically from my experience. So I got pregnant 3 days. I found out I was pregnant 3 days before the world shut down during COVID.
Mm,
And I say all the time, like before that, I was a get me to the hospital, get me an epidural kind of girl. I knew nothing about birth. Like I was just like, I don't want to feel a thing, like whatever. But then my husband was not allowed at any of my appointments. And I was like, this is not how I pictured things going. Kind of your experience, right? Like you started
yeah,
out with OBs and then you switched over. So I, of course, they told us also that he wasn't going to be able to we couldn't do a hospital tour. And then he was not going to be able to be in the room while I labored, and I was going to have to labor in a mask. And I was like, immediately, no, that's not going to
yeah. Oh my
fly.
God.
So obviously, like kind of like what you said, like dove headfirst into birth education, watched The Business of Being Born, obviously.
Yes.
Talked to some friends who had home births, and I was like, y'all are crazy, but I'm going to learn
Yeah.
about this. Ended up having a home birth, and it was like so incredible. So I can't imagine what my experience would have been in the hospital. 100% would have had a C-section. There's no way they would have let me labor for 72 hours
Yeah.
without any sort of induction methods or whatnot. So it's so interesting. Like the hand that we're dealt is kind of how our labor plays out. So that's why the birth education prenatally for mom and dad are so important, because it can really set you up for success or failure, quote unquote, as far as like getting what you want out of your birth, like getting
Yeah.
the choices and feeling heard and feeling respected and feeling like you have that autonomy to speak up. But having an
Yeah.
advocate like a doula makes it a lot easier for
Of
sure.
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
What is like, if you could give one piece of advice to pregnant moms that are listening, like what would you say would be like the most important thing to take away? So again, that's very broad and open ended, but coming from your background, like what would be that one piece of advice?
Don't forget to also prepare for postpartum.
Oh, yes, I love that.
Oh, I know this is birth advocacy, but part of how we birth is going to influence our postpartum, our fourth trimester. So, yes, it is so crucial to do that prenatal education to prepare for birth. So, even if you don't have the outcome that you are hoping for, you feel like all of the choices that you made during the experience were empowering and were like leave you feeling like I did my best. My
Yes.
partner and I did my best. My baby and I did our best. It might not be the outcome I was thinking I was going to have, but guess what? We still rocked this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is also going to influence your postpartum mood. And I can't remember the exact statistic, but it was pretty high, like 57 or 60% of moms who had traumatic birth experiences had an increase for PPD and postpartum
Mm-hmm.
mood disorders. So we've really got to also prepare for our postpartum as we would preparing for our birth, putting in equal amounts of time and effort into those preparations, that education.
Yeah. So what would you recommend as that postpartum prep? What does that look like for you and your clients?
Oh yeah. Well, if the goal is to breastfeed, which for many of my clients it is, it's doing some prenatal breastfeeding education or lactation
Mm-hmm.
support. It's figuring out a sleep schedule so you and your partner can balance getting little stretches of sleep, even if it's you're not having to get out of bed and your partner bringing baby to you and holding baby on you while baby feeds. Like
Mm-hmm.
just those little things. If you have the means and the ability to hire a postpartum doula, hiring a postpartum doula, having a meal train set up so your neighbors, community,
So important.
friends
So
are bringing you
important.
food,
Yeah.
having those little snack stations set up and your big water bottles close by.
Always
And
having water.
you know these are like little things, right? But like
Yes.
I didn't think of these things the first time I had a baby. I didn't think of a
Mm-hmm.
one of them. And then I was trying to figure out how to do all of these things, feed myself, take care of myself. And it was overwhelming. And when you're overwhelmed and just trying to survive those first couple months postpartum, you cannot think straight. So that's why it's important to do it during pregnancy. So you're like, oh yeah, I remember I need to call this person to come help me today.
Yes, I love that. Just making it easy, making it as easy as possible because like you said, like your brain is not going to be functioning at its highest level when you're
Mm.
sleep deprived and not feeding yourself. I always tell my clients like try to get in the shower at least once a day. That is
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing that I would have told myself postpartum because you
Yeah.
get into this funk, every day feels like Groundhog Day and you're like when is the last time I even like took a shower? So just like a quick 5-minute reset to just kind of again like literally and physically wash away the day can
Yeah.
be so empowering.
Yes.
Well, this has been awesome,
Yeah.
Jessica. I love talking with you. Your background is just so impressive with your Chinese medicine and all of the acupuncture and all of that. So, if clients are looking to work with you, I know that you said you were starting to take more clients online and kind of giving
Mhm.
yourself some space to navigate away from the in-person support. Where can they find you? How can they work with you? How can they take advantage of your expertise?
Yes, that's I have a website and on there is a free mini like mindful birth webinar. And
Awesome.
I do share. I was broke during my first pregnancy, had no money to spend on anything, so I was finding free resources wherever I could. So I like to also share free resources for, with clients and with folks worldwide. So there's a free miniature birth preparation course on my website. And then if you would want to work with me virtually, there's ways to contact me there. You can contact me via email. And I don't have a calendar set up because I want to like talk to people. I want to be like, tell me what your
I
schedule is
love
like.
it.
Tell me
Yeah.
what it works for you so I can find a time that works for you and your partner. So
Awesome.
just email me directly.
Awesome. So I will drop all those links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Do you hang out mostly on Instagram, Facebook? Like where do you spend
Yeah.
most of your time?
Yeah, I am. I'm on all the social media platforms and I do my best to return DMs. Sometimes they overflow a little bit and I miss something every once in a while. So I say, if you DM me and I don't get back to you, please email me because that's
Yeah.
where you'll definitely get a hold of me.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with
Thank
me.
you,
It's been awesome
Kira.
chatting with you. But this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking time out to chat with
Yeah.
me.
Thank you. And good luck with your surrogacy journey. That's so
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. It's been a wild ride so far. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. Like it's a lot of,
Yeah.
okay, get your medical clearance and then now we're waiting for embryos. But we're on our way to legal and signing contracts. And so it's going to be a wild ride, but I'll be sharing about it all over my Instagram, I'm sure.
I
But
can't wait to watch. That's exciting.
yeah, it's going to be crazy, but I just loved being pregnant and I loved as crazy as my birth was. I loved it. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing like that unmedicated birth where you're just like that high afterwards is like
Yeah.
addicting. So,
Yeah.
I'm very much a one and done kind of mom. So I just
Okay.
again, mental health like that's what I just know that
Yeah.
about myself. So, I was like, "Ooh, surrogacy sounds exciting." And people are like, "You are
Yeah.
absolutely insane." But
No,
it's going to
I
be awesome.
actually wanted to do it, but I'm too old. I would do it. I feel like, oh, I would do it, but then I'd
Yeah.
probably be like, why did I do this?
That's probably going to be me. I'll probably hit morning sickness and be like, why did I do this again? Like,
Well,
oh my
I think
gosh.
it's amazing and,
Thank you.
congratulations and good luck and
Thanks.
that's
Appreciate it.
great. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. I'll talk to you soon.